Hey, welcome back to the stage show. I was about to call Carlos Homer there. It's Carlos Cam this year, not Homer Cam. We're sitting here with William Ho from
United Front
Games. I was about to say Mod Nation Racers Games, but we're not talking about Mod Nation.
United Front Games in beautiful sunny Vancouver, BC, Canada.
Sounds wonderful. I'm from wet and damp London.
Sounds wonderful,
well,
too.
That's where I live anyway. We're here to show us LittleBigPlanet Karting.
Yeah, LittleBigPlanet Karting. What we're aiming for LittleBigPlanet Karting to be is a competitive karting adventure, right? Not just a traditional kart racer, but a competitive karting adventure. What does that mean, karting adventure? Well, we've built on a foundation of great kart racing, right? You know, really pick up and play controls, really great handling, stunts, jumps, weapons, drifting, of course. And built on that, we've added new abilities that are unique to LittleBigPlanet Karting, like, Grapple Hook. It's a great moment from LittleBigPlanet. And when you go into the story mode, you're going to start with the traditional races. We've added battles because people love battle mode in a kart. And then we take the story mode to, in LittleBigPlanet fashion, we offer all these surprises of different types of levels, different objectives. The creator curators, give you all these wild and wacky challenges, and you go on an adventure in your kart. Sackboy in a kart for the first time.
So when you're playing the game, you said there's the campaign, sort of akin to
the story mode.
Is there story and everything involved in that, and narrative?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a LittleBigPlanet if it didn't have a really cool, charming story. And so, I can't give away the story today, but we will have Stephen Fry, the voice of LittleBigPlanet, introducing you to the game, immersing you into it, teaching you all the controls, and how to re-immerse yourself into Craft World. And then, as you go along, you're going to meet these crazy characters that, give you all these surprising challenges, right? It starts with races and battles, like I mentioned, but, different types of modes like, treasure hunts, score attacks. We've even got a capture the flag mode in the story mode. So all these things that are cool to do in a kart, we're going to have in our story mode. And that's just the beginning of LittleBigPlanet Karting, because all of these modes that we're making, all these levels that we're making, are made with the level editor that's shipping on the Blu-ray. So you could pick it up.
Well, it wouldn't be a LittleBigPlanet game.
Exactly. It's play, create, share. So when you go into create, you're using everything that our level designers use at United Front Games. So, whether it's just painting a track, putting down some buildings, some objects, setting it to 3 laps, you can build a race very, very quickly. Same thing with a battle. You can just draw an arena, put down some weapons, put down some obstacles. You've got a battle. But then you have all of the tools, all of the gadgets that people are familiar with. All the power creators have been using these tools for 5 years now, and they're going to have a head start in LittleBigPlanet Karting because they'll be able to go in, very familiar interface in a full 3D world. It's not just 2D, it's full 3D. We've taken Craft World, all the familiar materials, all the familiar objects, and they're in this huge 3D canvas in which you can make your own karting adventure, whether it's a race, a battle, or other modes that you can script yourself using the power of the level editor.
How scalable is that? Because one of the criticisms laid towards LittleBigPlanet, it's not really a fair criticism, I don't think, is that oftentimes it can be quite difficult to make a large level, sort of naturally, because there's so many variables going on. So how are you guys maybe addressing the idea that there might be people who want to make a simple level?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The simple things are still simple to do, right? We have tutorials that lead you into how to make your first race, how to make your first battle. And there's lots of options that you can just, flip the number of laps or the time limit or, some basic rule sets that you can just go in, and it's like multiple choice. What do you want? And then you can set up your own original race and battle with very little effort. And then, because of the depth of the tools, the depth of the scripting, the depth of being able to paint 3D objects and rig them and animate them, trigger them in all kinds of different ways, the depth pays off over time because we don't expect you to learn everything at once. No one learns all of the level editor features at once, but you learn them one at a time. You play around with them, you experiment with them, and you just discover along the way what you can bolt onto your levels to make them truly custom and truly unique. And
on the other side of the scale then, because some of the level creators in LittleBigPlanet 2 have just made absolutely astonishing games, new game modes. So how easy is it to create sort of new types of gameplay modes within that, or are you stuck to?
If you're well versed in the level editor and LittleBigPlanet already, people are already making things that are like, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible in a platform game. Well, we want that same reaction in LittleBigPlanet Karting, where if you play with the basic tools, experiment with them a bit, you're going to go, oh my God, I had no idea they could do that in a karting game. And that's why we always come back to the term karting adventure. It just breaks all these boundaries of what it means to be in a kart and what you can do and what challenges you can present to people, with your friends, or when you publish your levels online, people in the community, right, which is millions of people strong.
I think we should maybe check out some of this gameplay, because I just saw the hook
so
being used there.
LittleBigPlanet fans are going to be, I hope, glad to hear that we're paying homage to some of our favorite scenarios and levels and themes from LittleBigPlanet, the first game, and LittleBigPlanet 2. And so this is an homage to Avalonia. And so it's actually called Huge Spaceship, and it's the huge spaceship from LittleBigPlanet 2. And you're seeing it from a completely different vantage point, right? What was formerly just 2D, we've actually modeled using our what we call geopaint tools to paint this huge spaceship that you're actually racing through. You're doing stunts through. You're picking up weapons. We've got, I mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got the grappling hook.
Yes.
We prototyped the grappling hook like in about a day or a day and a half very early on in the project. And once we tried it, there was no going back. It was just so much fun getting off the ground and swinging across chasms, swinging across hazards, swinging to collect prize bubbles and score bubbles. It really frees you from just being on the track all the time, and it introduces new strategies, new skills, and just the feeling of flying. We really wanted with a spaceship level to make you feel like you're flying through space in a kart.
Just to remind folks, we're taking questions as well. If you have any and you're watching the GameSpot feed, feel free to drop them into the box underneath the video, or if you're just using Twitter and stuff, use hashtag GameSpotE3 and I'll do my best to ask them. Great one here from Justin. He's asked, since LittleBigPlanet is about making your own creations, can we make our own carts and even weapons? I saw the paint gun.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that question, because absolutely everything that you see on the screen here in this huge spaceship level, again, was made using the level editor, no cheats that you're going to have on the Blu-ray. So you look at all of this scenery, you look at this bridge here, like this was all geo-painted, right? You're just picking a material, you're picking a brush, and you're making these objects and you're instancing them to make the track. The grapple sponge, you can place it wherever you want. We've got, some hazards here. You can lethalize any object in the game, right, to make them into obstacles. You can change the AI, you can change the difficulty, you can change the behaviors, how aggressive they are. You can customize all the weapons. All the weapons in LittleBigPlanet Karting are made using the level editor. So you can either, on your own custom level, remove weapons that you don't want, add ones that you've made. You just pick an object, give it a behavior, give it a stun state, and you've got your own custom weapons. You can tune the frequency of those weapons. I'm going on and on about this only because there's so much flexibility.
So much to talk about.
But yeah, so the weapons you can customize, the AI you can customize, the music, you can pick the song you want. LittleBigPlanet games always have kick-ass soundtracks, so pick the song you want. The scoring system, the HUDs, I could go on and on and on about what you can customize. So I hope that answers the question.
Cool. Question here from Hercus asked, multiplayer split screen, and if yes, 2 or 4 players?
Multiplayer split screen, we've always played great 4-player split screen games, and so we are supporting 4-player split screen. If you're going online, you and a buddy on the same PS3 can go up against up to 8 players online. So online, it's 8 players on the PlayStation Network. And
what's the scalability in terms of the amount of races in single player? Is it 8 again?
Yeah, it's always 8, but 8 fully customized Sackboys and 8 fully customized carts.
Gamaran has asked, in the UK, he's asked, will the story mode be interweaving with plot points in LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2?
That's a really good question. We are paying homage to some of our favorite scenarios, the favorite places that we've already visited on Sackboy's previous adventures. I don't want to spoil the surprises, but we are going back to LittleBigPlanet 1 and LittleBigPlanet 2. But in addition to that, we've got original themes, original locations, new characters, new challenges that Sackboy has to overcome in a quest to save Craftworld once again.
We're getting bunches of questions in on this. The Dalroy's asked, do you pick up powers while you're on the track, or do you choose the powers before the race? So are they defined by the track, or are you picking up powers?
Yeah, so we've invented things called weaponators, and they're all over the track. You pick up a weaponator, and you get a random weapon at that time. That's how it works in our story mode, right? That's classic, a classic karting game mechanic. However, in your own custom levels, you can choose how you want it to go. You can have random weaponators. You can have weaponators that are specifically this weapon, or you could even script scenarios where, hey, I drive through this, tunnel, or I drive into this garage and I equip a weapon. So there are lots of different ways that you can get weapons in LittleBigPlanet Karting.
Would there be environmental weaponization, like running over a pad and it making
for
a wall
instance,
disappear?
somewhere on this level, we've got, up ahead, we've got these electrified obstacles. So you can actually use the lethalizer, and you actually apply them to different objects in different places. You can have them triggered by, player sensors or by certain conditions like time. Again, I'm going into a lot of detail, but basically any way you can imagine you can create an obstacle with a weapon, you can probably do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Question here from Grideye. Can I import any of my stuff from LittleBigPlanet 1 or 2?
That's a question I get a lot. We're still looking into the details of that, and we'll probably have something to announce later. Something that reminds me of is that this is a brand new game, right? Like from the ground up. Like this is not a port of LittleBigPlanet 2 that happens to have karting. This is not, a reskin of any previous racing game. This is actually something we re-examined. Like we looked at every part of the game to make it more powerful, to make it fit within Craft World, to be this karting adventure game. And so this is actually a brand new game. And so we have to see if it's going to be compatible with anything else. But even within this title, there's going to be so much for you to to unlock, to earn, to collect, to create with, to customize.
It's incredible that it is, considering you've managed to basically match the aesthetic and feel of the LittleBigPlanet.
Yeah, the biggest compliment that anyone can pay us is they look at this game and they go, oh my God, it's Craft World in 3D. I feel like this is authentically LittleBigPlanet. And we get that compliment from people playing the game here at E3. We've gotten it from people like Media Molecule, right? Our friends at Media Molecule. They love how we've translated Craft World into this new, larger 3D canvas.
Great question here from Captain M in Denmark. Denmark, my God, it's like 2 in the morning there, I think, 2 a.m. He said, what would you say is the biggest difference between LittleBigPlanet Karting and, for example, Mod Nation Racers?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, this is a karting adventure, right? We're very proud of our heritage of having made great karting games, traditional kart racing games, and so that is awesome. We're so proud of it. But this is a reboot. This is a karting adventure, and we really want to break the boundaries on what it means to Sackboy in a kart, what you can do in a vehicle, the types of challenges, the types of modes. It really is something brand new.
Question here from Littleman3344 asks, are there different types of karts, like sports cars, jeeps, and I guess to add to his question, could you have different cars that have different abilities and effects?
We have literally a couple hundred different bodies of karts in our game. I'm not going to list them all, but they span from race cars to things that are things that we see in everyday life. There are trucks, and then there are crazy things like domestic objects. Like we have a flower pot. We also have, a bit of a nod to the LBP fans. We have the Robobun. You can actually race as the Robobun from LBP2. So we have this potpourri of, vastly different vehicles that you can choose from. You can mate with different parts in the poppet to make your own custom rides, and of course you can sticker and decorate them.
A couple of more questions here. Split screen. Question, from a puzzle to a racing game, how did you come up with this idea? And do you think it's how did this partnership happen actually? How did you guys, was there collaboration? Because it's quite similar to Mod Nation Racers in many ways.
Yeah, so to tell you the truth, we've always had a good relationship with Media Molecule. Even before we started work on LittleBigPlanet Karting, we've always felt like we're kind of kindred spirits with Media Molecule. Ever since 2008 when I was at that GDC when they revealed Sackboy for the first time, I went, holy crow, I love this character. He's so charming. And, this type of game is something that, we had already been germinating ideas for. Right? And so we felt like we were studios with the same values to empower people out there to create, whatever they imagined, to be able to express themselves. And when it came time to start our latest title, we wanted something insanely powerful. And it just made sense to mate karting with LittleBigPlanet.
We're talking about the customizable elements on making the cars. Do all of them have wheels, or can you make stuff that flies? Or
Yeah, well, they start off as go-karts with go-kart chassis, but then we've got different types of chassis. You've got a standard go-kart chassis, but you can turn it into a dragster, or you can turn it into a lowrider, or you can turn it into a tank, or even a hovercraft, which doesn't have wheels. So again, a wide variety of different kart styles that you can make using the customization.
Just interested because there's a couple of different ways you can sort of make these games in terms of difficulty. Are you guys going to use things like rubber banding in the?
We don't really do rubber banding, but we try to make the right tools and the right decision making with the AI so that the matches are tight. But we don't cheat. We don't automatically drop in a guy like to fire a weapon at a certain point. We don't like to predetermine those outcomes. We feel that we've designed a karting game that is natural enough that you're going to get that competitiveness with humans versus humans and humans versus AI.
I have a question here from PS3 Dude 10. He's asked, in LittleBigPlanet 2 there were 2 layers to work with. How many layers are there in LittleBigPlanet Karting? I guess it's a whole different situation because you're in a 3D.
We've blown away layers because it's not just a puppet theater. It's actually a theme park, right? If you think about the difference between those two things, that is how big a canvas you have in 3D. And once you're in 3D, you don't have layers anymore. You have this wide open space that you can randomly deploy things on, right? We still have grids so that you can align things. You can make city grids or streets or line up your buildings or fences, but really you have all the freedom within that 3D space that you could ever want. And so I think a lot of experienced creators in LittleBigPlanet are going to be pleased that, oh my god, I don't have layers anymore. I have a huge space to fill with whatever they imagine they put in there.
Captain N from Denmark, he still hasn't gone asleep, has asked, how fast can you make the carts, for example? Can you make them lightning fast, like racing games like F-Zero or Wipeout?
Yeah, you can make them quite fast.
Quite fast.
I don't know how to express it in number, but you can make them significantly faster than the default speed and significantly slower. And it depends on the particular level or scenario you're building. There's some scenarios where you kind of want them to be slow, right? If you want it to be, if you want them to be tank speeds, you can make them tank speeds. Or if you want to make them like F1 speeds, you can do that too, and everywhere in between.
In terms of the level editor as well, then, how large can you make what's the sort of the limit on the amount of assets that you can have in any one, or in terms of size?
That's another question where it's like, it's big. I honestly don't know how to quantify it. But if you look at what we're playing here, like this is an arena called Zeppelin's Rule. Like it actually has quite a bit going on because we've got 2 ships. They're in the sky. There are clouds. We've got some scenery in the background. We've got these ships are made out of a lot of different pieces that again are painted using the 3D geopainting tools. We've got the weapons, we've got pickups, we've got prize bubbles, score bubbles. Anyway, we've got lots of stuff going on the screen here. And, I don't think anyone will hit the limits really, really soon using the level editor.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you very much for coming over and showing us LittleBigPlanet
Thanks a lot. I'm really thrilled to be here. Thanks.
Whenabouts can we play it? And I was about to ask on what
coming out on PlayStation 3 later in 2012.
Awesome. Thanks very much for bringing it
along. Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're going to shoot over to Brendan and Eddie now, who've got some news apparently. What's the news, guys?